Have you ever had that quiet moment where you stop and look at your life and think, this isn't where I'm supposed to be? Maybe it's late at night when everything is silent and your thoughts get louder. Or maybe it hits you in the middle of a busy day when you're surrounded by people but still feel completely disconnected from your own direction. That feeling, that discomfort, that inner voice, it's not there to break you. It's there to wake you up. Because the truth is, most people don't hate their lives. They're just stuck in patterns they don't even realize they're repeating. Same habits, same excuses, same fears, day after day. And over time, those small, repeated choices quietly shape a life that feels far from what they once dreamed of. But here's the powerful part. If your life was shaped by repeated actions, it can also be reshaped the exact same way. This isn't about overnight success or some magical transformation where everything suddenly becomes perfect. Real change doesn't work like that. It's not flashy, it's not easy, and it's definitely not instant. Real change is uncomfortable. It asks you to face parts of yourself you've been avoiding. It challenges your beliefs, your routines, and sometimes even the identity you've been holding onto for years. But that's exactly why it works. In this video, we're diving into the core ideas from the book, How to Change Your Life. Not just as information, but as a guide you can actually feel and connect with. Because knowledge alone doesn't change anything. You can read 100 books, watch 1,000 videos, and still stay exactly where you are, unless something inside you shifts. And that shift doesn't come from motivation alone. It comes from understanding yourself at a deeper level and choosing, consciously, to move differently. You'll discover why most people struggle to change even when they desperately want to. You'll see how your habits, your mindset, and your daily decisions are quietly controlling your future. And more importantly, you'll learn how to take that control back, step by step, thought by thought, action by action. And let's be real for a second. Change can be scary. There's comfort in staying the same, even when the same isn't making you happy. There's safety in familiar routines even when they're holding you back. But there's also a cost, a very real cost. Because every day you choose not to change, you're also choosing to stay where you are. And deep down, you already know if that's enough for you or not. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming who you were supposed to be before fear, doubt, and habits got in the way. It's about taking responsibility, not in a heavy, overwhelming way, but in a powerful, freeing way. Because once you realize that your life is shaped by your choices, you also realize something even more important. You have the ability to choose differently. So if you've been feeling stuck, if you've been waiting for the right time, or if a part of you knows that you're capable of more but you just haven't figured out how to unlock it yet, then this is for you. Take a deep breath, clear your mind, and stay with me until the end. Because this might not just be another video you watch. This could be the moment something finally clicks. Let's begin. Wake up. Realizing your life needs change. There comes a moment in everyone's life when something just doesn't feel right anymore. You can't always explain it, and from the outside, everything might even look fine. You're doing what you're supposed to do, following the routine, checking the boxes. But inside, there's this quiet discomfort that won't go away. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it's persistent. It shows up in your thoughts, in your lack of excitement, in the way your days start to feel repetitive and meaningless. And most people ignore it. They distract themselves. They scroll more, watch more, stay busy, and tell themselves that this is just how life is. But deep down, they know the truth. That feeling isn't random. It's a signal. It's your mind and your instincts trying to tell you that you've outgrown the version of life you're currently living. The problem is, waking up is uncomfortable. Because the moment you admit that something needs to change, you also have to face the fact that you've been settling. Maybe for months, maybe for years. You have to acknowledge that some of your habits, your decisions, and even your beliefs have been quietly holding you back. And that's not easy to accept. It's much easier to stay asleep, to stay on autopilot, where nothing is questioned and nothing really changes. But here's the truth most people avoid. Nothing changes until you become aware of it. Awareness is the first step. It's the moment you stop blaming circumstances, luck, or other people, and start looking inward. Not to criticize yourself, but to understand yourself. To see your patterns clearly. To recognize where your time goes, what you prioritize, and how your daily actions are shaping your future. Because your life right now isn't random. It's a reflection of what you've been repeatedly doing. The small choices you make every day, the habits you follow without thinking, the excuses you tell yourself when things get hard, all of it adds up. And over time, it creates your reality. That realization can feel heavy at first. It can even feel a little overwhelming, but it's also incredibly powerful. Because if your current life is the result of repeated actions, then a different life can be created by changing those actions. Slowly, consistently, intentionally. Waking up doesn't mean you suddenly have everything figured out. It doesn't mean you instantly become disciplined, focused, and confident. It simply means you become honest with yourself. Honest about where you are, what you want, and what's no longer working. It means you stop pretending that everything is fine when you know it isn't. And once you reach that point, something shifts. You start to notice things you ignored before. You become more aware of how you spend your time, how you react to challenges, and how often you choose comfort over growth. You begin to question your habits instead of just following them. And that awareness, as uncomfortable as it might feel, is the beginning of real change, because you can't improve a life you're not paying attention to. So this chapter isn't about fixing everything at once. It's not about making big dramatic moves or completely reinventing yourself overnight. It's about opening your eyes. It's about stepping out of autopilot and actually seeing your life for what it is, not what you've been telling yourself it is. And once you truly see it, you can't unsee it. That's where change begins. Break the pattern. Destroying bad habits. Now that you've started to wake up and see your life more clearly, the next challenge becomes impossible to ignore. It's not just about what you want to change. It's about what's been controlling you all along. Your habits. Because the truth is, your life isn't shaped by what you do once in a while. It's shaped by what you do every single day, often without even thinking about it. The small routines, the automatic choices, the things you repeat over and over again. Those are the real drivers of your life. And if those patterns are unhealthy, distracting, or unproductive, they will quietly keep you stuck, no matter how big your goals are. The frustrating part is, most bad habits don't feel dangerous in the moment. They feel easy, comfortable, harmless. Skipping one workout doesn't seem like a big deal. Procrastinating for a few hours feels normal. Choosing entertainment over effort feels relaxing. But when those small decisions become patterns, they start to define you. Not in a single day, but over weeks, months, and years. And this is where many people get it wrong. They try to change their lives by relying on motivation. They tell themselves, from tomorrow everything will be different. But motivation fades. It always does. And when it fades, your habits take over again. That's why real change doesn't come from sudden bursts of energy. It comes from breaking the patterns that no longer serve you. But breaking a habit isn't just about stopping a behavior. It's about understanding it. Every habit exists for a reason. Maybe it gives you comfort when you're stressed. Maybe it helps you avoid something difficult. Maybe it fills a gap that you don't know how to deal with in a healthier way. If you don't understand the reason behind the habit, you'll keep going back to it no matter how many times you try to quit. So instead of fighting your habits blindly, you start observing them. You notice when they happen, what triggers them, and how you feel in those moments. You begin to see the pattern clearly. And once you see it, you gain power over it. Then comes the harder part, replacing it. Because removing a bad habit without replacing it creates a gap. And your mind hates gaps. It will try to fill that empty space with the same old behavior, simply because it's familiar. That's why real transformation happens when you consciously choose a better alternative. something that serves you instead of holding you back. It won't feel natural at first. In fact, it might feel uncomfortable, even frustrating. That's because you're going against patterns your brain has been following for a long time. But with repetition, those new actions start to become easier. Slowly, they begin to feel normal, and over time, they become your new default. This is where discipline starts to grow, not as something forced or painful, but as something built through consistent choices. Small wins begin to stack up. You start proving to yourself that you can follow through, that you're not controlled by your impulses anymore. And that builds confidence, not the kind you talk about, but the kind you feel. Breaking patterns isn't about being perfect. You will slip. You will have days where you fall back into old habits. That's part of the process. What matters is that you don't let one mistake turn into a permanent pattern again. You catch it, you reset, and you keep going. Because at the end of the day, your habits are either building the life you want or quietly destroying it. And the moment you take control of them, everything starts to change. Rewire your mind. Building a powerful mindset. By now, you've started to see your patterns and understand your habits. But there's something even deeper controlling everything you do. Something that shapes your decisions before you even realize it. It's your mindset. Because the way you think determines the way you act. And the way you act determines the life you create. If your mind is filled with doubt, fear, and limiting beliefs, it won't matter how many opportunities come your way. You'll either hesitate, hold back, or convince yourself that you're not ready. On the other hand, when your mindset is strong, focused, and growth-oriented, you start to see possibilities where others see obstacles. The challenge is, most of your beliefs weren't consciously chosen. They were built over time. From past experiences, from failures, from what people told you, and from the stories you started believing about yourself. Maybe at some point you tried something and it didn't work out and you told yourself, "I'm not good at this." Maybe someone doubted you, and without realizing it, you accepted their opinion as truth. Over time, those thoughts became part of your identity. And that's the real problem. When a belief becomes part of your identity, you stop questioning it. You just live with it. Rewiring your mind starts with challenging those beliefs. Not aggressively, not forcefully, but honestly. You begin to ask yourself, is this actually true? Or is this just something I've been telling myself? And that simple question can create a powerful shift. Because many of the limits you feel are not real barriers. They're mental ones. This doesn't mean you ignore reality or pretend everything is easy. It means you stop automatically assuming that you can't grow, improve, or change. You replace a fixed mindset with a growth mindset. Instead of saying, "I can't do this," you start saying, "I can't do this yet." That one word, "yet," changes everything. It keeps the door open. But mindset isn't just about positive thinking. It's about disciplined thinking. It's about choosing your thoughts carefully, especially in difficult moments. When something goes wrong, your natural reaction might be to blame yourself, to feel defeated, or to give up. But a strong mindset pauses in that moment and chooses a different response. It looks at the situation and asks, "What can I learn from this? How can I improve?" That shift doesn't happen overnight. Your brain is used to certain thought patterns, just like it's used to certain habits. But just like habits, your thoughts can be trained. The more you practice awareness, the more you catch negative or limiting thoughts as they appear. And instead of letting them control you, you redirect them. At first, it might feel like you're forcing it, like you're pretending to think differently. But over time, something powerful happens. Those new thoughts start to become natural. Your internal voice changes. It becomes more supportive, more focused, more resilient. And that changes how you show up in your life. You take more action. You become less afraid of failure. You stop overthinking every step and start trusting yourself more. Not because everything is guaranteed to work out, but because you know you can handle whatever comes your way. That's what a powerful mindset really is. It's not about being fearless. It's about moving forward despite the fear. It's about believing in your ability to figure things out, even when you don't have all the answers yet. Because once your mind changes, everything else follows. Your actions improve, your habits become stronger, your confidence grows, and slowly, the life you once thought was out of reach starts to feel possible. Not because the world changed, but because you did take control, discipline, focus, and daily action. At this point, you've become aware of your life, you've started breaking old habits, and you've begun to reshape your mindset. But none of it truly matters unless it shows up in one place: your daily actions. Because your future is not built on what you think or what you plan, or even what you intend to do someday. It's built on what you actually do, every single day. And this is where most people struggle. Not because they don't know what to do, but because they don't do it consistently. This is where discipline comes in. Discipline is often misunderstood. People think it's about being harsh on yourself, forcing yourself to work all the time, or pushing through life with no breaks. But real discipline is much simpler and much more powerful than that. It's the ability to do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like doing it. Because the truth is, you won't always feel motivated. There will be days when you're tired, distracted, or just not in the mood. And if you rely only on motivation, those days will control your progress. But when you build discipline, your actions are no longer controlled by your feelings. They're guided by your decisions. And that changes everything. Instead of asking yourself, "Do I feel like doing this today?" you start asking, "Is this important for the life I want to build?" That one shift moves you from emotion to intention, from short-term comfort to long-term growth. Focus plays a huge role here too. In a world full of distractions, your attention has become one of your most valuable assets. Every notification, every scroll, every unnecessary distraction pulls you away from what actually matters. And over time, it weakens your ability to concentrate, to go deep, and to make meaningful progress. Taking control means protecting your focus. It means being intentional about where your time and energy go. Not in a perfect way, but in a conscious way. You start to notice what's draining you and what's moving you forward, and slowly, you begin to eliminate what doesn't serve you. But here's something important to understand. Progress doesn't come from big, dramatic actions. It comes from small, consistent ones. It's easy to get excited about massive goals. It feels good to imagine a completely different life. But that life is built in the quiet moments, in the small decisions you make when no one is watching. Choosing to work when you could procrastinate. Choosing to stay consistent when it would be easier to quit. Choosing to show up again and again even when progress feels slow. That's where real change happens. And yes, there will be setbacks. There will be days when you don't follow through, when you lose focus, when you fall back into old patterns. But discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about returning to the path every time you step off it. It's about building trust with yourself. Because every time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you strengthen that trust. And the more you trust yourself, the more confident you become in your ability to handle bigger challenges. Over time, those daily actions start to compound. What once felt difficult becomes routine. What once required effort becomes automatic. And the gap between where you are and where you want to be starts to close. This is the part most people underestimate. They want fast results, immediate change, visible success. But the truth is, the real transformation happens quietly. It happens in your discipline, your focus, and your daily commitment to becoming better. Because in the end, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems and your actions. And when you take control of those, you take control of your life. New you, creating a life of purpose and growth. At this stage, something inside you has already started to change. You think differently. You act more intentionally. You're more aware of your habits, your mindset, and your daily choices. But now comes the most important question of all. What kind of life are you actually trying to create? Because changing your life isn't just about breaking bad habits or becoming more disciplined. It's about direction. It's about purpose. Without that, Even the most productive life can start to feel empty. A lot of people spend years improving themselves, working harder, staying busy, but they never stop to ask why. They chase goals that don't truly matter to them, follow paths that were chosen by others, and end up feeling lost, even after achieving success. That's why this final step is so important. It's not just about becoming better, it's about becoming aligned. Creating a life of purpose starts with understanding what truly matters to you. Not what impresses others, not what society expects, but what genuinely gives you a sense of meaning. It could be growth, freedom, creativity, impact, or something deeply personal that only you can define. And here's the thing. Your purpose doesn't have to be something huge or world-changing. It doesn't have to be perfect or fully clear from the beginning. It just has to feel real to you. It has to be something that pulls you forward, something that makes the effort worth it. Once you start moving in that direction, everything changes. Your discipline feels less forced. Your habits feel more natural. Your actions feel connected to something bigger than just getting through the day. You're no longer just reacting to life. You're actively creating it. But growth doesn't stop here. In fact, it never really stops. The new you isn't a final destination. It's an ongoing process. There will always be new challenges, new goals, and new levels of yourself waiting to be discovered. And that's not something to fear. It's something to embrace. Because the person you are becoming is not fixed, you're constantly evolving. And the more you grow, the more you realize how much potential you still have. At the same time, it's important to appreciate how far you've already come. Change isn't easy. It takes courage to face yourself honestly. It takes effort to break patterns, to shift your mindset, and to stay consistent when it's hard. So don't ignore that progress. Recognize it. Let it remind you that you are capable of more than you once believed. And as you continue forward, remember this. Your life is not defined by your past. It's defined by the choices you make now. Every single day gives you another opportunity to move closer to the life you want, or to stay where you are. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to keep moving forward, with awareness, with intention, and with the willingness to grow. Because in the end, changing your life isn't about becoming someone completely different. It's about becoming the version of yourself that was always there, just waiting for you to step into it. And that journey starts and continues with you.